Hello everyone, this is umonox, and in today's quick tip it's about a topic that was left over from my tutorial from yesterday, where it was about sampling and resampling on the Digitakt, where was something that I wanted to put into this tutorial, and this is how we could capture perfect loops, but the video was too long already, so I decided to make a new video for this right now. Okay, now before we get started, I want to ask a question from from someone of you. You asked me, is it possible to monitor the input via headphones only? And I must say, no, it's not possible. So you see, I have XLR selected, the monitor is active, and I have the Volca sample. Let's put it off. You hear the click, and let's put it on, and the click is again there. And when I now play this thing, you can hear it directly. So it's not possible to monitor on the headphones themselves. It's always going out to the main output too, and I'm recording the main output, so that's it. Okay, now let's start with this thing. And the question is about how can we capture a perfect loop, means how can we capture a loop which is starting at the very first position of the pattern, even if there is no sound on that very first step. This applies to when you have external sequencers like drum machines or something, or synthesizers with a sequencer and stuff, and you want to capture a loop for that. Now let's assume we have the situation that we have a drum loop right here, which is the case, and I want to record this thing. It's as easy as hitting yes and playing this thing back. Now I have a perfectly captured loop, as you can see. So first I go out and create a new project. As I've mentioned yesterday, the recorded sample is still in the RAM, so we can still use it, as you can see, but we are back with a default project. Now I save this thing, the new name, and assign it to this track. So when I now put a step on this track, I know from my settings here that the Volca sample is running at 125 BPM. This is the speed the loop is running, but I'm still on 120 BPM on the Digitakt, so I changed this real quick, put this up to 125, go to the trick page, bring the trick length up again, and play this thing back. And now we have a perfectly tight loop. And we can go to this hi-hat here and play some tricks to see that we are really tight. Muted, unmuted again. Okay, so far so easy. But what happens, let's go back to this page here. What happens if we, first let's quickly put this to XLR again and put the monitor on again so that we hear something. Bring the threshold up a little bit. I've created a new project, that's why it's reset. So let's find that bass drum. Here it is. So what if we don't want this, but this instead? So the loop without that bass drum. Now if I would go in here and would record with record arm right away, we would get this. We have a sample. We can assign to track number 2. First I go to track number 1 and actually assign a kick drum, default kick drum right here, adjusting it a little bit and putting down a basic pattern. So there we have this. Now on that second track we have that loop, and when I now place a step right here, you can hear that we are out of time. First let's bring this up again, and now you can hear that we are out of time. And the reason is the Digitakt has started recording once the first signal came in. Let's zoom out. So it started with this first, yeah, cannot hear this. with this first something percussion element, which was around here or somewhere, I don't know exactly. So it started to record at that position, but it should have recorded from the very start of that pattern. But yeah, it didn't. Now what we could do is we could play with the steps, place them around. Maybe try some micro timing here. Probably something like that would be reconstructed, so to say. But this is not the intention. This is not great, because sometimes you do not have the time to do this, or you just simply do not have the option to do this for whatever reason. So to make sure that the Digitakt will start recording once this loop is starting, we must put some sort of a click sound or something on the very beginning of this pattern, and I show you what I mean. Let's use this bass drum for that purpose actually, and put a step on the very first step here, but make the decay extremely short. Have a listen. Now we have something. It's very short and we can get it out in that particular case. It's very short, but there is something inside. And I show you how this works. Now I just press yes. And arm again, and I've recorded it. And now this percussive element, as you can see, right here, this percussive element starts later. It starts at a position where it should really start. So I save this loop and assign it to this track. So now let's have a quick look at this track and see what the trick looks like. Yeah, that looks good. So on that second track, when I place a trick right now and play this thing back, it will be in time. And it will be in time because we've set that 125 BPM right here, which is the tempo which is on this loop right here. Now usually if you have an external sequencer and you are not syncing it up via MIDI, you can set the time of the sequencer individually. So yeah, that's cool, but we have this click. And how can we get rid of this click now? One method could be to use this amplitude envelope and use the attack from that envelope to get it filtered out. But have a listen to what happens when I do this. It's filtering out that click, at least a little bit, but it's also filtering out some of my sounds in the very beginning, and this is not intentional. This is not what I want. And those first sounds are very close to the first step, so they are filtered out as well. And this happens because the amplitude envelope, the attack from that envelope, is very linear, and we need a much steeper curve for that. And we can do this with the help of an LFO. So I switch to the LFO and assign a volume, assign the LFO to the volume. Now I select an exponential waveform for that purpose, and here comes one important thing. To make this work, we must tell the LFO to run through this waveform only one time and when it should stop. And we do this by using this, what's called a one-shot mode. This way the LFO will stop when its cycle is complete and will not repeat, which would be the case in other modes. So if we now turn the depth of that LFO down to -64 into the other direction, we more or less flip this waveform, and this gives us the exponential curve, that very short fade in the beginning that we need to get rid of that click. And now let's have a listen. This is without, and now I'm slowly dialing it in. And the speed, as well as the speed multiplier, allows us to change the speed of that curve, so to say. So is it faster or is it slower? I'm turning it up, I make it faster. And you can slowly hear that click coming through again. When I turn it down, I make it slower, until we finally reached the point where we were with this attack from the envelope already. So we can fine-tune this and find the right spot. Something around 8 or 16 in the default settings is already cool and works very well. And now when we play this back, we have a perfectly captured loop, so to say. At least we have a very perfect start without actually having some sort of a sound on that very first step of the pattern. So let's play it back. And if you mute that kick drum, all is good. Yeah, and that was something I wanted to show you as well. And yeah, that's already it now. I hope it was useful for some of you who might have asked yourself the same question already. And this is just a way to do it. And yeah, I hope you liked this video. And if that was the case and if it helped you, I just wanted to quickly remind you that you can support my work on Patreon. And if you decide to put down a pledge, I'm very thankful, mates, and I want to thank you in advance. Okay, so yeah, next up will be my MIDI tutorials, but just give me a couple more days to get this all sorted out. And until then, I wish you all the best, my friends, and I see you in the next video. Bye!